Hey, welcome back to my channel, and if you're new, welcome. I'm Belle and I'm an actor, and today we're talking all things Shakespeare again. So if you watched my last video, you'll see that I'm working on Measure for Measure, and that is because I've always been frightened of Shakespeare, well, Shakespearean language, should I say, because first things first, when I watch the plays, I can understand them. And secondly, I can't even understand it when I'm reading it. But now I really want to overcome that fear because I want to do plays, like Shakespeare plays. And what better way than to read a Shakespeare play and also share my journey with you guys. So in my last video, we looked at Act 1, Scene 1, and today we're looking at Act 1, Scene 2. I'm just going to go straight ahead with it. I've got my notes here, so I'm ready to go. So in the scene, we're introduced to Lucio and Gentleman 1 and Gentleman 2. And this scene, I found it really, really funny, and these three men are soldiers, and I guess they've known each other for years. Well, that is what it seems like when I read the scene. It seems like they're really comfortable with each other. They're able to talk about anything and everything. And the first thing that they talk about in this scene is a little bit about politics, I guess, in terms of the dukes and finding peace with the King of Hungary. And I'm not really sure what is happening there. Maybe I can look into that a little bit more, or maybe later on in the play they'll explain that. And then the first gentleman jokes about how, well, he prays to God, saying that he hopes that there's peace apart from peace with Hungary. And Lucio, well, the second man agrees, and Lucio's like, wait a minute, you're sounding like the pirates who took the 10 Commandments to the sea and they got rid of one of the commandments, which is obviously thou shalt not steal. And he goes on explaining the reason why they got rid of that they rubbed that commandment out of the 10 Commandments is because obviously the pirates, and they don't want to lose business, because obviously if everyone finds out that that is one of the commandments, no one's gonna obviously look up to them or buy anything from them. First gentleman says that he's never heard a soldier pray for peace. And Lucio agrees, and he says he's never ever seen a soldier ever pray. And then the second gentleman goes, he has, he's seen this happen like almost a dozen times. And they talk a little bit more about this subject about soldiers and praying and religion and things like that. And then the first gentleman goes on to talk about how him and Lucio are like cut from the same cloth because they have similar beliefs. And Lucio basically laughs and says, yeah, you're right. I'm like the velvet and you're like the scrap. And the first gentleman says, I'd rather be English cloth than be a French velvet full of piles and STDs. And then Lucio turns around and he says to him, well, actually, the way you're talking sounds quite painful, so it seems like something's got you down there, just remind me never to drink from your glass again. Yeah, basically he's saying that, it sounds like he's basically got some sort of disease. There's something, whether that is crabs or something, in his pants, in his bits. And yeah, so I found that scene really funny, and it goes on a little longer. And then later on in the scene, we're introduced to Madame Overdone. Yeah, we're introduced to Madame Overdone, and she basically comes in, and so I think she's an owner of the brothel, and she comes in and she tells Lucio that his friend Claudio has been arrested and he's going to be beheaded in 3 days' time. And Lucio is so confused. He's like, what do you mean he's arrested? This can't be right. And she's like, yeah, it is. And then Lucio says, okay, I'm going to go and find out what is going on. I'm going to go and find Claudio and talk to him and see what's going on. So he runs off and the gentlemen follow him as well. And then Miss Overdone, I really find her name funny, Miss Overdone. I think in my head, has she been overdone in the bedroom, you know, with all her clients, or anyway. And then, yeah, so she's left on stage, and who's the guy? A guy comes in, Pompey? Let me see. Yeah, Pompey. Yeah, so Pompey comes over and he basically tells her that they're knocking down, like they're getting rid of houses. So knocking down houses in the area, and they're gonna knock down her house as well. And that obviously means that she ain't gonna have no business no more. So she's now scared that she's not gonna have anywhere to do her business, you know, and she's not gonna be able to make money. So Pompey tells her not to worry, because you know what? He'll look after her. He'll be her pimp. And she's like a little bit like, but you know. And they go off stage, and then we are introduced to Claudio and the guard. So the guard drags Claudio in, and we see Lucio follow after, and he's asking Claudio, what is going on? Why are you being arrested? And he's like, are you being arrested for this? Are you being arrested for that? And it turns out that he's being arrested because he had sex with his wife-to-be, Giulietta. And obviously they're not married, and they are engaged, but they're not married. And now the new Duke had found out, and he's, you know, he wants him beheaded in 3 days. And Lucio is like, this isn't fair, you know. The reason why they're not married yet is because they're waiting on some sort of dowry from Giulietta's family and friends, so they have to wait a little longer. Anyway, so now she's pregnant now. She's pregnant. She's pregnant, and that is the way the Duke found out. And Lucio's like, this doesn't make any sense. This isn't fair. And he tells him, why don't you go and find the actual Duke and tell him what is going on? And Claudio's like, well, I've tried, you know, tried to find him, but he's nowhere to be found. So he tells him, can you go and find my sister? So his sister is, well, actually, I don't know yet. I haven't got to that part of the book, but I kind of know what happens. But anyway, so he tells him that his sister is in the nunnery, and she's about to start her nunnery lessons, you know, how to be a nun and things like that. And he's like, go tell her what is happening. Tell her that I've been arrested. Tell her that I'm going to be beheaded. And tell her that I want her to go and talk to the Duke and befriend him, because obviously with her youthful self, and, you know, she's able to convince anybody. And she's being gifted with poeticness, if that is even a word. So she's able to convince any man, you know. So yeah, that is what happens. So that is what happens in Act 1, Scene 2. And I really enjoyed that scene, you know. I really enjoyed reading that scene and watching the scene as well, you know, and being able to really understand what is going on after reading the play. I think so far that scene is better than the first scene for me. And that brings me to the end of this video. I really hope you guys enjoy this video and you feel a little bit more clear with Act 1, Scene 2. If you didn't feel clear and you have any questions, feel free to leave it in the comments down below. And I hope you have a fantastic day and catch you tomorrow. Bye.